Let's go further in depth on this now, and to do so, we call on a gentleman uniquely qualified to offer analysis. That would be former New York City Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik, who also served as the interim Interior Minister in Iraq during the last decade. Bernie, thank you for joining us by phone this morning from New York here on America's Forum.
Good morning, JD.
Bernie, reports are that NYPD officers were told to, quote, remain alert and consider tactics at all times while on patrol. Is there anything you can add to this admonition? Is that something different than what they routinely hear?
Honestly, JD, no. You know, John Miller was on earlier. You had a clip from him where he said that we sort of remain on a high alert status in New York City, and that's true. The thing that troubles me is that the rest of the country does not. You know, just a second ago you said there were renewed threats. These aren't renewed. These are continual. There is a continual threat by radical Islamic organizations around the world, no matter what their titles are, no matter what their names are, be it ISIL, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever. These are continual threats. They're not going away. They haven't diminished. They're increasing. And we just have to get used to it. We have to understand that that threat is not diminishing in any way. It's continually increasing. And we in this country have to live with the reality that the threat is there. We have to put ourselves in a position where we secure our country internally, we secure the American citizens we have abroad, and come to the realization that this isn't going away. I just find it stunning that every time something like this happens, we act like, you know, people act like they're stunned that somebody had the audacity to do this. They've told us they're going to do it. They continually tell us they're going to do it. They continually send messages on social media. You know, nobody knows better than John Miller. This is a man that personally interviewed Osama bin Laden 25 years ago, and he said then that they were going to do this, and they've done it ever since Miller had that conversation with him. So nobody should be surprised. Nobody should act like, you know, we're stunned that this happened. The reality is it's going to happen if we allow it to happen. So we're going to fight this enemy abroad, or we're going to fight it here.
And Bernie, as you were mentioning, your concerns about this ongoing threat, we saw some scenes from last week in Paris. Of course, this weekend, there was that unity rally. So many international leaders made their way to Paris to be a part of that. Yet no one from the administration was there, save the U.S. ambassador to France. In your mind, would it have been important, should President Obama have been there?
Personally, I think it would have. Personally, I think yes. I think he should have been there. You know, the couple people I saw there that was extremely telling, and I don't think the media picked up on this as much as they should have. I saw the King of Jordan there. I saw the King of Jordan's wife there. I saw some other Arab leaders that should have been put more in the forefront. You know, the picture that everybody focused on was the leaders of France and Germany and some of the other European nations. You know, I think people have to focus on the fact that there were some Arab leaders that were there, and that's extremely important on the worldwide picture to let Muslims know around the world that there are real Muslim leaders. There's real Muslim leadership that is against these attacks. The Queen of Jordan just yesterday put out a message over social media condemning the attacks.
And Bernie, when you see King Abdullah and his bride there, it sends a powerful signal. More with Bernie Kerik following this time out. Please stay with us. Let's continue our conversation with former New York Police Commissioner Bernard Kerik. Bernie, we do appreciate your time. To the notion of sleeper cells, is Senator Feinstein accurate in her conjecture?
Yes, absolutely. and she has a lot more information on this and intelligence on this than we do, and we do at this time especially. So you have to take her on her word. She said we have to be more aggressive in trying to identify and track them. That's true. But, we have a number of American citizens that have gone abroad to fight in this jihad overseas in Iraq and Syria. There must be laws on the books that allows us to go after them. If they're bearing arms for a foreign nation, these people should be charged criminally. They should be charged with treason if necessary. And if there aren't laws to go after them, then we should create them. I'm not big on creating new laws in the criminal justice system today, but that's one that's extremely important. If we're going to create any law, that's one we should be working on. The other thing, JD, and one of the most important things for me right now, when I look at this overall issue, in the aftermath of Michael Brown and Eric Garner, the two cases where these gentlemen were killed while in police custody, everybody called for the demilitarization of the U.S. military. We spend an enormous amount of money on Green Berets, SEALs, Rangers, and all those people that protect us abroad. But I have to tell you, the local and state police are tasked with the protection of U.S. citizens here from both criminals and terrorists, yet there's limited funding and resources for training dedicated to major city SWAT teams and Tier 1 counterterrorist hostage rescue units. Those are the guys, those are the men and women that's going to be called in a situation like Paris. Ask the people of Paris today if they believe that their local and state police should be demilitarized after what happened there. I don't think so. I think I already know the answer. We have to make sure that our local police, our state police units have the resources, have the training they need to combat threats like this should they happen in this country.
So, Bernie, already in this segment, two takeaways. Number one, you're encouraging Congress to act preemptively to pass legislation that perhaps would designate those Americans who go abroad to fight with Islamic fundamentalists, to designate them as enemy combatants, perhaps even strip them of their American citizenship as they go into this. And that's my interpretation, so you can elaborate on that. But the second thing you're saying to us, stop and think again before you reflexively say we ought to demilitarize domestic law enforcement, that some of those tools and tactics are needed as this war on terror comes to our shores. Now,
that's exactly right.
Okay, good. Now, one of the terrorists who was involved in those Paris attacks pledged allegiance to ISIS in a video that was recorded before he carried out his deadly mission. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Martin Dempsey was on Fox News Sunday yesterday, and he felt that although we've been having success in pushing back ISIS, he says ISIS essentially will self-destruct. Let's take a listen and get your reaction.
Tactically, we've destroyed a lot of their equipment. We've reversed some of their territorial gains. We've had an impact on their leadership and their command and control and their logistics. What will eventually cause the defeat of ISIL is that it will collapse under its own contradictions, frankly, when the populations in which it tries to maneuver realize that that ideology is not to their future benefit.
Bernie, about 45 seconds remain. Do you agree with what General Dempsey said?
Well, I can't really tell because he has more insight regarding ISIL, the specific group that he's talking about, than I do. But I will tell you this, it doesn't make any difference. ISIL, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, and when ISIS is gone, there's going to be some new group that we're dealing with. It's radical Islamic extremism. That's the enemy. Forget the names. Forget the names. We have to target radical extremists around the world that want to take out Israel, that want the demise of Christianity, that believes that anyone that's not a Muslim should be dead and they have a right to kill him. That's the enemy.
Fair enough. Bernie Kerik, we appreciate your time. Up next, Alan Dershowitz as America's Forum continues.